Philippe, what did you think of it? Was it wise to send Jack Lew in front of the Jerusalem Post annual conference?
I think it's safe to say at this point that it wasn't. President Obama's been like kind of a charm offensive with American Jewry, trying to make the point, it's not me, it's you, right? Something happened in Israel, something went wrong, we lost our values, supposedly. And he sent Jack Lew because Jack Lew is an Orthodox Jew. And maybe he thought that he could connect with the crowd better, but Israelis are not known for being understated or particularly polite. And maybe because Jack Lew is one of the tribe, they felt even more comfortable giving him a piece of their mind. The American Jews on the right and Israelis are not really buying President Obama's charm offensive.
Well, I'm not buying it either. I know neither are you, but I want to go back to him getting booed off the stage. Yeah, it was a little disrespectful. Yes, I will give him that. But do you think that they were legitimate in their concerns, had a reason to boom off the stage? This non-deal with Iran could be deadly for Israel.
Yes, so not how they did it, but the sentiment behind it, I can understand. President Obama gave an interview to Israeli media last week, long interview, and he was asked, but what do we do if Iran has sanctions relief and then all of a sudden it could arm Hezbollah and Hamas and all these other groups that it's already funding, you know, and it could multiply the amount of money these very dangerous groups have. And his answer was, that's probably not going to happen. So that's not a level of assurance that Israelis can live with, a probably not happen kind of assurance that Iran, which has been making incredibly aggressive statements and moves in the region and is funding Hezbollah and Hamas, probably won't fund them. That's just not good enough. So Jews are not buying it. President Obama loves to say he stands by Israel, and he has in most of the cases, but in certain key cases he hasn't. And Israelis are very afraid, and they remember those key moments.
Well, of course they do. We know President Obama and his rhetoric on this issue. Now we know Prime Minister Netanyahu actually tweeted something out saying that not only would such a deal not block a path to Iran developing a nuclear weapon, it would pave it. And that's what so many Americans are saying, especially the Republicans. And you and I have talked about that political wedge issue here in the United States. But I have to wonder, are the Jewish Americans and Israeli Jews, are they all in line together on this thing? Do they all stand in solidarity against this Iran non-deal?
Not yet. We may be headed in that direction. There's increasingly a sense of being besieged in the Jewish community if you combine BDS and how the Europeans have been acting in this Iran deal. But so far, and generally, the American community is split, like America split. But it's mostly been on... Most Jews are on the liberal side in America for historical reasons, for ideological reasons. But there's been a shift. The support for President Obama has gone down. And I suspect a lot of that has been this issue with Iran. The assurances are just not enough. If you really scratch beneath the surface, they're not enough. When Iran is going to cheat, what's going to happen? The idea that the sanctions will be immediately put back into place and that will somehow stop Iran is just not being sold, right? People are not buying it. It didn't work with Korea. It's probably not going to work in this case. So Israelis are scared. American Jews increasingly are scared, but a vast portion of American Jews are going to be with Obama no matter what.
And why is that? You mentioned for historical reasons, but I wonder, especially when we've got the Obama administration, and they've said it time and time again, he's not standing up for Israel, especially where it counts, which to me, the most shining example is the Iran deal. Why are American Jews so behind the Democrats historically?
Well, some don't have a strong, many don't have a strong contact with Israel, so it's just not that important to them. Traditionally, Jews in many Western countries have sided with more liberal parties because strong national identity scares them. Which I think you can understand given the history. So they'll be afraid of anything that smacks of strong national traditional identity like the Republican Party does. I think they're realizing more and more that a strong America is the best thing for Israel and the best thing for Jews. So you have some kind of a shift like maybe in the Reagan years. But generally, ideologically, Jews, especially in this country, come from a background of liberalism and trying to assimilate and be accepted and minimizing cultural differences. And I think that's a big reason of why they affiliate with the left.
Okay, very interesting there. I think you always bring such great information to light that most Americans don't know. We know that certain parties line on this side or the other. We know what we see in the headlines about Israel, but people don't really know the real story behind it. They just know the headlines. That's why I love to have you on. That's why I want to get your take on something else. You and I have talked about the differences between what the media reports about Israel and what life is actually like in Israel. And I'm excited because you're going to be actually Skyping us from Israel in the coming weeks. Very excited to see that. But I wonder, everyday middle-class Israelis, is this Iran deal, a nuclear Iran, is that something that they worry about on a daily basis?
Yes and no. To be Israeli means to know how to put certain things on the back burner, like to worry in a non-active way, right? There's always this stress. There's always this worry that our kids are going to the army and there could be a war like we spoke of last week. At any moment, it could blow up. So Iran is definitely a big source of stress. But there are so many other issues that attract daily attention, like the price, the cost of living, which you allowed me to talk about a couple of weeks ago. That's also very, very prominent. So finally, I would add, if anything, there's a sense of resignation that they can't really do much and that they have to trust the government. So I would say they are worrying about it, but it's not something prominent because they don't feel they have immediate control over it. And you just would go crazy if you think about Iran and its statements and potentially getting a nuclear weapon, right? So people like to put it on the back burner, but it's very present in that back burner, right? It is driving a lot of fear subconsciously in the country.